Hello, this is Chris Pratt from Eurogamer, and welcome to our first look at Tropico 6. I believe this is probably the first real big chunk of Tropico 6 gameplay that there is online at the moment, so yeah, plenty to talk about here. And I should point out that this was a demo that I saw at GDC. In fact, you'll see a big watermark throughout a bunch of this gameplay that says GDC Alpha Build. Obviously some of this might change, and yeah, it's worth pointing out that it wasn't me playing, it was a developer that I was sat next to who was sort of giving me an overview of the new game's features. And that's what this video really is. It's not a sort of traditional playthrough of a set of missions, it's more just jumping around, pointing at different things, showing off new features that are in the game. And yeah, we're going to go through a few different save games, a few different islands, and just sort of see different parts of the game working in different areas. So yeah, don't expect this isn't the first 30 minutes of the game, for example. Okay, so what do we need to talk about here? Tropico 5 came out on, was it mid-2014, I think? Tropico 6 is set for some point this year. We still don't have an exact release date. And a concern that I've seen raised by some people in the community is that the games look quite similar. Now, Tropico 6 has been rebuilt in a new game engine. It's in Unreal 4. But, you know, feature-wise, how much has really changed between this game and the game we played, you know, almost 4 years ago now? We'll see. Okay, so yeah, the actual traditional setup is very much the same as it always has been in the Tropico series. You play as El Presidente. Where is he? There he is, having a very fast-paced walk down his street there with his bodyguard. And yeah, it's your job to sort of control the fortunes and the future of this island that you are the dictator of. And yeah, the way that you choose to do that can vary. You tend to either side with one of the big superpowers or try and keep both of them reasonably happy, and hopefully they'll just ignore you and let you get on with what you're doing. And the sort of kind of industry you want to build, whether that's a focus on like tourism or maybe you know, extracting minerals and selling them, is sort of up to you. That's at least in the sandbox version. This game will once again have a storyline component, which I think is 15 missions long, is what they're saying at the moment. And that will see El Presidente go through multiple eras. The eras are back from Tropico 5, so you start off in the sort of colonial era, go into the World War era, then the Cold War era, and finally the modern era. And I think we won't see the World War era in this playthrough. This is obviously the colonial, but we will see both the Cold War and modern. So yeah, you'll get to see how the sort of the visual style and the objectives tend to change throughout that. So what else do we have to talk about here? We've got actually one of the more impressive things that the developer told me is that in Tropico 6, for the first time, the Tropicans themselves, the civilians under your control, are supposed to be fully simulated. Now I always get a little skeptical when I hear that in games such as this, but let me explain what that means. Apparently, Sergio here will only be producing, or will only be helping the docks that he's walking towards where he works when he is himself inside the building. When he's anywhere else, whether that's walking home or in a bar or whatever it is, that building won't be producing as much without him. This basically means that travel time becomes much more important in Tropico 6, because if Sergio lives really far away from where he works, that distance for him to walk and get to and from his job to his home is going to cost you money, essentially. And so the infrastructure that you build and the way that your Tropicans get around your islands is now more important than it used to be. In past games in the Tropico series, I think in Tropico 5 it was sort of a halfway house where they were sort of simulated, but a lot of the sort of resource production and things were happening underneath the hood, and it wasn't really to do with where the Tropicon was then and there. But that means actually, and I think we'll see an example of this later on, your research, for example, requires people to be working in libraries. When they go home for the day, your income of sort of research points stops entirely. So yeah, a little different, and yeah, I obviously didn't get to play around with this too much by myself because it was the developer playing, but sounds interesting. Always a little skeptical that it's actually the case. Over to the palace here, you can customize that to your liking. You can see there you can get a helipad. I think you can maybe build a swimming pool out in the front. And I did ask how these sort of these customization things were unlocked, and they were a bit hazy on the details. There are 15 missions, as I said, and they suggested that maybe as you play through them, you'll unlock more sort of aesthetic choices for your palace. And I don't think it has any gameplay effect whatsoever. I don't think the fact that there's a swimming pool there will make any difference to your El Presidente's sort of life and happiness. I don't know. Or I don't think he'll even use a helipad that you just built on top, but it sort of looks nice, and that's important, you know? If you're a dictator of a small island, you want to have a palace that suits you. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so yeah, as we'll jump ahead to, I think, the next island in a few moments' time, something that I really like about Tropico 6 is the emphasis on multiple islands in this game. There you go. Actually, I think, yeah, we won't use these islands in this save file, but I think they do in the next one. I really like that you can just zoom out really quickly, see your entire setup, and then zoom back in, and there's no delay there whatsoever. And the fact that there are multiple islands means that the way that you build is kind of interesting, because obviously you'll need probably bridges connecting these islands if you want to use more than one of them. And we talked about the idea of the Tropicans being simulated and that travel time becoming important. You really don't want to be wasting a lot of time having a Tropican travel from one island to another if you can help it. So something to bear in mind there. And I like the interesting shapes that the islands provide. We'll see one save file in particular where there are really narrow islands, and it just limits what you can actually build when and where. And I think that's an interesting sort of challenge to be presented with. I imagine in particular you'll see this in the story missions. You'll get some sort of weird setups with which to try and build on and make something out of. But yeah, let's jump ahead to the next save file, which is called Concrete Beach. And this one, you'll see a sort of a split in the focus of this particular island setup. Like half of the island is built around oil production and the other half is around tourism. I think this is actually maybe the setup for one of the story missions as well, in which you have your industrialist advisor asking for more oil production and your environmentalist asking for more tourism and yeah, less reliance on oil. So yeah, you can see the oil rigs there in the middle. Look how thin those islands are though, right? Like there's not much space to build on, even compared to the last island we just saw. You're so limited with what you can do, and I think that just provides a really interesting challenge. Okay, so yeah, as I said, there are a few different things to focus on here. Also, I believe right off the bat in this save file, you've got a real issue with homelessness. Like, there is not enough residential buildings, partly because it's just a real issue to try and build them with such limited space. Like, look at that island right there. You're getting so little out of it, and you're having to build bridges to connect it. It's a real pain, to be honest. And yeah, I think that's interesting. Also, if you want to build on the tourism, which you're being sort of nudged towards by your environmentalist, where exactly do you do that? Now, one of the interesting things that comes with having multiple factions asking for different things from El Presidente, and this has also been the case in past games, is that your choice isn't just about, oh, well, oil production is going to make more money, so let's focus on that, or tourism's better for the environment, let's just focus on that. It's not just about income, it's also about getting re-elected, because I think every 2 years in this game, El Presidente will stand for re-election. There are things that you can do to avoid that, and that's it's a whole other setup that you can worry about later on. But in a typical game, yeah, you're going to be standing for re-election every couple of years, and those factions, the industrialists and the environmentalists, are, they carry political weight. They have their own supporters within your voting community, and so making sure that they're both happy isn't just about earning more money. It's about making sure that you don't get kicked out of your nicely customized palace later on. And also, we mentioned that there's a big issue with homelessness here. Like 161 of your citizens, you've only got 374, by the way, are homeless at the moment. That's going to have a pretty big issue on whether or not they're going to want to re-elect you later on. And yeah, you can see a bunch of stuff in this overview. Seems like the the superpowers, okay, both seem reasonably okay with you at the moment. I guess you're not really a huge blip on their radar at this stage. The revenue doesn't look quite right. I think that might be something to do with the fact that this is a preview build being shown to the press at GDC, because I think they've pressed a button there that suddenly gives them a lot of money to spend. Or I don't know, maybe oil production just works really, really quickly. And yeah, so as I said, those sort of factors are going to be an issue in your election. And the way that the re-election system works is kind of fun. They brought back once again the idea of election speeches, which is a very popular idea from Tropico, and one that I think people have been asking developers to work on ever since Tropico 6 was announced. And during that election speech, which I think we'll see shortly, you then get the option to basically tell your population what your priorities are going to be during your next term. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so you don't have to give a speech, by the way. Depends on your election forecast. I mean, we're looking pretty good there. We've got 30% favourable, 3% unfavourable, and then the rest undecided. That looks like we're going to win regardless. But why not just try and improve those odds anyway, and show off how the speech system works, as this is a preview. So if we agree to give a speech, we can first of all acknowledge an issue, and it looks like housing should probably be one of the main ones. Also, there's not a lot of things to do for fun on our islands at the moment, but yeah, considering housing is so, half our population is homeless, I think we should probably start with that. We can praise one of our factions, and that will mean that anyone that supports that faction within your population is more likely to vote for you. So we've gone for the environmentalists. Let's not upset the superpowers right now, we don't really need to. And we can promise something here. This is an important part of the election speech, because if you promise to improve the amount of fun that people are having on your islands and you don't deliver it over the course of your term, that is actually going to make it even more difficult next time you try and get re-elected. And yeah, you can stay here and actually listen to El Presidente give a speech based on what you've just said, and people should hopefully turn up, although right now it looks like there's about one person listening. Oh no, they've just walked straight into the palace. Okay, well presumably this will have an impact, or maybe El Presidente is just sort of convincing himself at this stage.
Roofs for all and walls for many. Let us speak of growth. For like a tenacious weed, Tropico must grow. And even weeds have friends, friends of the earth herself. The love of the green is a love we can all share. Are my people happy? They are. Some know it, some do not yet know it, and some require special attention to make absolutely sure they know it. But have no.
Okay, so we've given our speech, we've promised some things, we've said some things. We should probably start looking at spending some of this vast fortune that we've acquired on improving our island setup. So if we take a look at our building options, I think there's something like almost 150 buildings in Tropico 6, and an interesting thing is that obviously certain buildings are limited to certain eras. However, once you enter a new era, say you go from the colonial era to the World War era, every World War building is then unlocked automatically. However, you will need to buy the blueprint for that building before you can purchase it. So for the casino, for example, we need to spend 3,500 on the blueprint, and then we can build as many casinos as we want, although each one will then cost 6,500. And this is a really good way of building up tourism, although it comes under the category of luxury entertainment, and so it's a certain type of tourism that we're thinking about there. We're basically looking to bring in rich people from abroad to visit our island and spend their money here. And our island, as we'll see in a second, isn't really set up for that just yet. And in fact, I'm not even sure if we have the electricity required to run the casino just yet anyway. But if we put that down, we'll get an idea of what we'll need there. Really not much space on this island, is there? Oh, quick build, why not? We've got so much money, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we don't have electricity. We also I don't think we have the right kind of tourists heading in at the moment. Yeah, if we go over to our tourist port, you can see that our work mode currently has an economy liner coming in, which means we don't have rich tourists arriving on the island in any kind of numbers. We need the luxury liner to do that. However, that work mode hasn't been unlocked. So we'll want to go to our research, and there's a bunch of different things that you can unlock here. A lot of them are work modes, however, including this one here. You've got the tourist work mode. You can see that we've got plenty of knowledge points already, but there's currently no income whatsoever. I was told by the developers at the time that that was because right now there's no one in the library. Yeah, you can see the workers are doing other things right now. And so if they're not in the library right then and there, you don't have any knowledge income. But that doesn't matter because we've got plenty already built up. And yeah, if we pick that, and also I think if we grab the cathedral work mode, we can see that we can do something a bit different with our cathedral over here, which is currently building up faith, as you'd imagine. It's a good idea for a cathedral to do that. However, we can now switch our work mode over to something that focuses on tourism instead, and turn our cathedral into more of a tourist attraction than a sort of traditional place of worship, I guess. So that's an easy way of bringing in some more tourism. And if we switch over our economy liner to a luxury liner there, that should then start bringing in people, the right kind of people, to use our casino. Although we'll want somewhere for them to stay, so we'll probably need to build a few beach villas as well. Man, just building this casino has set up a lot of different challenges that we need to address. And the electricity is still a big one. I don't think right now we have any electricity sort of production on this island whatsoever. Yeah, if we look at one of the overlays here, electricity, I'm gonna guess that red isn't great. We're not producing any electricity right now. So how do we want to do that? Well, do we have a power plant anywhere? Don't think we do at this stage, so maybe we'll want to just build one of those real quick if we can find somewhere. Once again, we need the blueprint before we can actually purchase it. 5,000 for the blueprint, 12,000 for the building itself. And yeah, there are other types of energy we could sort of think about, wind turbines, but you'll need, looks like we need to be in the modern era for that. And yeah, so we'll go with a power plant right now. Now, an interesting thing about the power plant is that typically it requires coal. You need to give it an income of coal, and then it produces electricity using that coal. However, we don't really have any coal production right now. If you look at the overlay, you can see over there are a couple of green spots where we could mine for coal, but then we don't have bridges over there right now. We need a whole infrastructure to get that started. So what do we have a lot of right now is actually we've got loads of oil, because that's, other than tourism, that was our big objective on this island. And we can turn our power plant into an oil-fueled furnace, which means that it, instead of relying on coal, can use oil, and it will burn that to produce electricity, and that seems like a quicker turnaround than trying to just recenter our infrastructure to allow for coal production over there. You can see there are some oil barrels on our oil rig there. They will need to be delivered by one of our Tropicans over to the power plant before that production is going to start, and you can see that's quite a distance to travel. And yeah, all right, and that I think pretty much does it for this island. So let's switch over to the final save file, and it's got disaster in the save file name, which probably gives you some idea of what to expect. Yeah, the disasters are back in Tropico 6, and also I think in this save file we're going to take a look at the world wonders as well, which is probably one of the biggest new features of Tropico 6. You can see the Eiffel Tower right there. We're going to be taking a look at that ourselves in just a moment. And yeah, as this save file launches, you'll see that there's a thunderstorm going on. I think there's a tornado in the background. There's a volcano in the middle of the island, and yeah, that's outside of that. I think there are a few other disasters that the developer mentioned as well. Oh yeah, meteor showers and earthquakes are also a thing that can happen. But yeah, right now there's a thunderstorm affecting pretty much the entire series of islands, and that tornado in the background I think is thankfully just missing most of our setup. Let's take a look around 1 second. Yeah, this is a modern era save file, so obviously you can see that the buildings, we now got some sort of high-rise towers, and yeah, different options than you will have seen in the previous save file. Yep, there we go. Right, thunderstorm across the whole island, tornado, and then active volcano in the middle. And you're probably wondering why this person's even chosen to build around the active volcano, which sounds like a terrible idea. And that's because, and I really like this setup actually, I hope this is a story mission, is that if we look at the overlays again, and then yeah, you can see that there's a bunch of mining happening around the peripheries of this volcano. If we look at gold, you can see that there are gold deposits pretty much on every single buildable spot around, that huge sort of lava spewing disaster in the middle. So basically you just mine enough gold, and hey, even if the volcano erupts and you lose a few mines and some workers, you'll probably have a load of gold by that stage. So maybe that's all right. You can see that these mines are actually from a previous era. You can just modernize them if you have the money to do so, and that will make them, it will look different, and they'll just be more efficient at what they're doing. I think sometimes when you modernize a structure, the way they actually work can change a little bit. Sometimes you see this with the plantations. I think I didn't get to play around with that too much on my own, but yeah, you can see there are various different types of sort of food production there, depending on which era the building is from. And yeah, potentially as you go from one era to another, the actual type of food and the way in which you're producing it changes with that. Yeah, so what else can we see in the modern era setup? I kind of want to, if we go over to this part of the island, this is sort of more of the touristy bit, I think. Yeah, less production here. You can see, for example, one of the main tourist attractions is the Colosseum, which you may recognize from, Rome. When I asked about that during this demo, I was like, oh, so does that mean like the El Presidente here is sort of reconstructing or copying the Colosseum? And yeah, I was thinking more like sort of like, how Las Vegas has like versions of different monuments and wonders from around the world. And no, that's absolutely not what's happening. That is the Colosseum that was in Rome, and El Presidente has stolen it and placed it on his island. And that's something you can do, I think, once an era. You can steal a world wonder from around the world, and you do that by using a building. I think at this stage it's called like the Commandos quarters or Commando Garrison, something like that. But it starts off as the Pirate Bay in the colonial era, and yeah, then sort of upgrades with each era and allows new wonders to be stolen, and also a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, Commando Garrison, there we go. And yeah, you use this to steal things using the raid screen. Yeah, if we take a look at, with each era, different things become available. So from the sort of Cold War era, you can start sabotaging the various superpowers. In the modern era, you can start, I like this one, you can start creating fake reviews for your tourist attractions, which is great. But you can also, as you can see here, like go on a heist to steal the White House, for example, and various different things. Or this one is from the World War era, the Commando Garrison, I think, and you can go on a heist to steal the Eiffel Tower. And yeah, we're going to do that. And that basically, I think it takes quite a while, make the best part of maybe a year or 2 years to accomplish this, but we're going to speed things ahead and use a couple of cheats just to get to the end of the mission and show how it works. You can see that a commando plane comes in, and you will actually, once again, fully simulated Tropicans, you'll need your commandos to actually walk over to your plane before they can start the mission. And yeah, once that is filled up, they'll set off for Paris to try and nick the Eiffel Tower from the French. That is something you do have to think about in terms of your relationship with the various superpowers and the EU in this case. They won't love you for doing that, so the more world wonders you steal from a particular area, the more pissed they're going to be with you, and eventually that might even lead to them sending troops over to your island, which you'll need to deal with. And yeah, as I said, you can only steal one world wonder per era, so you'll have a maximum of 4 of these world wonders on your island. Although, there goes the commando plane, goodbye. The developer did say that they were thinking of doing maybe more in the sandbox mode, allowing you to build as many as you want, and yeah, have sort of an island just full of world wonders if that's your jam. So, what happens now? You have to wait around for a little while, as this takes some time, but then during this raid, you'll get a pop-up in which you're told that your commandos need something else. In this case, they need knives, because they'll sulk if they don't get them, apparently. And that requires leather and steel that you'll need to send to your commando garrison for this heist to continue. And I don't think, actually, this particular island is set up is producing any leather. No, it's not. You can see that they just don't have any to send over, and so thankfully the developer is just going to cheat and press a button which basically delivers that leather. He said that also after you've sort of done this first prompt, you've created these knives to send over to commandos, which keeps them happy. You then may get asked to produce some cheese to distract the French. Like, it's that kind of mission structure before eventually you get the Eiffel Tower. And yeah, that wasn't a fair reflection of how the mission would usually go down. We pressed the button which completed it. But there we go. And you can see that they've picked up the entire Eiffel Tower, and now you can build it where you want. This is unique building, so you can only build it once. It'd be a bit silly otherwise. And for a reasonable price of $12,500, you can plonk the Eiffel Tower wherever you please. And I think we'll go there. Yeah, that makes sense. And I really like this bit. The commandos fly it in and then just sort of drop it in place, which is sort of wonderful. And they're not too careful about it either. I think that's a cool approach to World Wonder. It's a bit different than like Civilization, isn't it? And yeah, we'll just build a road there just so people can actually visit it. And all the World Wonders give benefits to tourism. And I think each of them also has a sort of unique buff as well, like the Eiffel Tower. It provides entertainment to visiting citizens and tourists. Maybe different wonders do different things. Oh, actually, I think they said that these sort of tooltips haven't been fully updated. Like the Colosseum will also provide food as well, that kind of thing. But really, I think you just want them because they look funny. It's just in the middle of your tropical island. There's the Eiffel Tower and there's the Colosseum. Excellent. And yeah, if we go across to our sort of foreign relations, ignore the, like, a lot of this text hasn't been completed, but you can see there, stolen landmark of the Eiffel Tower, that's -30 to our relationship with the EU, which is quite a chunk to lose. Maybe we'll steal from like the US next time, just for our next era. Oh, actually, this is the modern era, so I guess it's the last one we could have stolen anyway. But yeah, that is how that works. I think it's quite daft. And that is about everything that was shown of Tropico 6. It's, like I said, I think there's some fair concern at the moment that this game looks quite similar to its predecessor. Yes, it's being run on a new engine. Yes, there are some funny new features like the World Wonder stuff. Yes, the fully simulated Tropicans sounds good. But really, if you've played Tropico 5, I don't know how much you're seeing here that is enough to really go, oh yeah, this is new and different and not like the game I played 4 years ago. But I'm interested to hear what you think. If you've played the other Tropico games, or perhaps if this would be your first, let me know what you think. And if you have any questions about this playthrough or the chat I had with the developer whilst we were playing, do let me know in the comments and I will try to answer them as best I can. But yeah, for now, that's our first look at Tropico 6. It's coming out at some point this year. I was told that the plan at the moment is for there to be a beta at some point, hopefully during the summer of 2018, ahead of the game coming out fully. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. And yeah, if not, we'll see this game later on this year. All right, thanks for watching and goodbye.